Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to teach you to create a Google Authentication System using Django and React. So first of all, let me create the virtual environment in this directory and install the some necessary package that is required to create that system. To create the virtual environment, let me write python -yum env.env. It will create the virtual environment with .env. Now the virtual environment is created successfully. Now let me activate this virtual environment. Now the virtual environment is activated. Now let me install some necessary package. So to create the Google Authentication System, I'm using the DJS Auth package that provides basic auth functionality like login, logout, and social authentication. So let me install this package with the pip install DJS Auth. So for the social authentication, we need to install another package also, that is Django OAuth. Now let me install the both of them. Now let me create Django project with Django admin start project backend part. Now let me open this project in VS Code with Logout. So it creates a Django project back now. Now let me create Django application. Let's send the directory to Django admin. Sorry, Django backend part. And to create the Django application, Python manage.py start app social auth. Now it creates the social auth Django application. So to activate this Django application, let me write inside setting.py file of install app list. Let me append that social auth. Now let me include some third-party application also that I have installed earlier. Let me copy all of this. Right here. Currently, we are creating the Google authentication. So let uh, the provider name should be Google. And let me save this. And another one is that we are using the OAuth package. So for that, we need to append uh, the middleware, account middleware. Let me append the account middleware. And I have to provide the site ID. And the token authentication, I have to provide a list of default authentication class. Let me mention the default authentication class. Let me save this. Now let me set up the Google project. So after setting the Google project, we can get the client ID and client secret, which is useful to communicate with the Google. To create the Google project, you have to move to the Google console. So Now you can get the client ID and client secret. Let me copy this. Now let me create a .env file inside the root directory of this project .env, and client ID is equal to, let me paste here, and another one is the client secret. It's equal to, let me save, let me copy this and paste here. Let me save this. Now we get the client ID and client secret from the Google console. So inside the .env file, let me write Google redirect URL, so which we provide while creating the client ID and client secret. While paste here, access the value inside the .env file. We need to install the third-party package. Let me install that package. Pip install python.env. And to load this environment variable into the Django project, let me write load the .env inside plus city.the file. And now let me create a profile models. The reason that I'm creating a profile model is that the profile model include image of the user and as well as the biography of the user. So inside the model.py file of social auth, here the profile model include the avatar field where the profile image is saved into this path, uh, which have the folder users underscore of the user, and inside it contain the name of the image. And if the avatar is not provided, it take the default image, which name is a default.jpg. Let me save this. Now let me run the make migration command to create a migration file. Now you create the migration file for profile model. Now let me migrate all of this file. Now let me clear this. Now let me create a super user. Python manage.py, create super user, create super user, name admin, and password admin, yes. Now let me clear this. Now let me write Python manage.py run server. Um, slash admin, and when we perform migrate, by default it creates a lot of models like social account, social application token, social application, and site and token. Now let me set up the social application, which is communicate with the Google, and it makes sure that user try to log in is the correct one or not. Now let me create the social application. So the provider is the Google, and the provider ID, it is not needed, and name, uh, Django React Auth, and let me pass the client ID. and client segregate. I think I copy all of this. Let me remove this. Now let me copy client segregate. Now let me select the site and say, now we set off the social application from admin panel. Now let me create a view and URL and serializer. Now let me create a URL file inside social auth application URL file, and here I forward the path for Google login and user the details. In this URL, you have to provide the access token, and it will give you the token which is used for authentication purpose. And by visiting this URL, we can see the details of authenticated user. Now let me create a Google login and username the class inside the view file. So here inside the Google login, we are providing the callback URL. We read the value from .env and username, which have the permission is authenticated. Only authenticated user can access this. And here is the serializer, user serializer. Now let me create this user serializer inside the serializer file. So in the user serializer, we which are dis which only display the user ID, username, email, image, and bio. So for the image, to return the full path of that image, we have to append the main URL in front of profile URL. So let me read this main URL from .env file. We created a serializer and view. Now let me create a signal. The reason that I'm creating a signal is that when the user is registered, I want the profile to be created at the time of user registration. So for we gonna handle that scenario with the help of signal. Now let me create the signal file, signals.py. Currently, let me comment out this and the create profile signal. What this function do is that when the user is created, the profile is automatically created for that user. To trigger this signal, I have to include inside the app.py file. Very let me import the source path dot signal. We created the signal also. Now let me include this URL.py file. Let me include the URL.py file of social auth application. Let me import include and path include social auth dot URLs. Now let me test this application. As you can see, to test the social application, here is the URL. We display the Google login button. So let me copy this and now let me replace the name. Now let me replace the value with. Now let me replace the actual value. The redirect URL here is the redirect URL. HTTP localhost 3000 and another one is the client ID. And let me write the client ID here. Profile also. Now let me copy this and now let me paste here. So now let me select the Google account which I want to register into my system. Continue. So as you can see, it redirect to localhost 3000, so where we can get the access token. Now let me visit to Google login, where we have to provide the access token. Let me copy this access token. Let me paste here and click on post. Actually, we are getting error because the I have done some mistake here. Let me remove this, and actually this instance is the user object is equal to instance. Let me save this and let me refresh this. Let me in the admin panel we don't see the profile section, so let me include in the admin profile. Let me import dot dot models, import profile, and admin dot site dot register profile. Let me save this. Now let me refresh this page. Now we can see the profile section where there is no profile of the user, but inside the user section, this user is registered. Now let me delete this user. Go. Let me move back. Not here. Uh, Let me move back and let me click on post. We get the token which is used to which is useful to authenticate into our system. Now, when we see on profile, currently the user is authenticated as the currently the user is logging as the one when we log in from this section. So now let me write the username admin. As you can see inside the profile of one is also created. So uh, so you can see the default avatar of this username. So when I click on this, I don't see the profile of this user. So that I have to include the media path. Now let me refresh this page. And and the thing is that inside the media, we have to include the default .jpg image. So now let me create a media folder, media, and inside the media, let me create a profile and media profile. So inside the profile, I include the default .jpg image. Now let me refresh this page again, but I still um, didn't able to access this image. The reason is that to sort the media file, I have to forward the path. So inside the URL file of the backend auth folder, let me append the media root path. Let me save this and now let me kill this terminal and re, run server again. Now let me refresh this page. As you can see, we can see the default.jpg image of that user. As you can see, when you the profile image of this user is this one. So when user is registered through the Google, I want to save that profile picture instead of this default one. So for that, um, let me on comment this function. Let me save this. The main purpose of this function is that it will update the profile image of that particular user when it is authenticated with Google by default. Inside the social account, his profile is created. So which is to the user details inside the extra data field. So it take the image URL from that field, extra data, and save that image as the profile image. Now let me delete this user again. Yes. Now let me click on this and continue. Now let me copy access token. Let me provide the access token. The user is registered successfully. Let me refresh this page and let me pass admin. Um, Inside the profile of that user is created. Let me click on that. Now let me see the avatar of that user. Now, as you can see, we can we get the profile image of the user that he or she used on that Google. Now let me make the use of this token. Let me copy this and let me move to the end of URL users me. So it says that the authentication credential were not provided. Now let me call this URL from Postman. Let me open the Postman. You can see the user details, the ID for username one, an email, image, and the bias inputted. But by default, the DJs are forward the token-based authentication. Now, I want to use the JWT authentication. So now, to set up with the JWT, I need to install Django REST framework, simple JWT third-party library. Let me open in the next terminal and let me visit the documentation installation. So now let me copy. Yeah. Now let me copy this and now let me paste here. Now for the default authentication class, I have to provide this class inside the setting.py file. Let me replace this with this one, which is provided by the JWT. And thing is that I have to include this application into my install app list. Here I provide the configuration while working with JWT. It is necessary. Let me save this. So to use the JWT, I provide the true so that it will use the JWT, and JWT or the HTTP only is false. If I write the true, then it will not return the token um, access token value. Let me run the server again. On server, Now let me check whether it will work or not. Now let me copy this URL and let me paste here. Before that, mm, let me delete this user. Yes. Now let me click on this Gmail account and we continue. Now let me copy this access token. Now let me refresh this page. Let me forward the access token. Now you can see it return the access and refresh token as a response, as well as it also return the user detail also. But I don't want to return the user detail. For that, I have to update the serializer of this. I will show you later how you can update the serializer. Now let me copy this access token and let me see does it work or not. Instead of token, I have to forward the barrier on BEARER. Paste here. Oh, now you can see we it runs successfully and we get the user the detail. Let me update this response. Now let me include the JWT serializer. Now it now this response will call this serializer instead of the inner one. Now let me create the JWT serializer. Click on post. Now you can see the access and refresh token only. Actually, actually the lifetime of this access token is only 5 minutes and the refresh token is 1 day. So all the time we all the time we will not call this URL to return the access token to get the refresh token. If this URL accept the refresh token and return the access token as a response. URL. The token refresh. Now let me pass the refresh token here and it give the access token to set up the front-end project with the help of React. Now within this directory, let me create a front-end project. So to create a front-end project, let me write npm create latest. We are gonna create the React application with the help of Beat. So npm create Beat at the rate latest, and then the project name will be the front end path. So now let me choose a framework that is React and variant JavaScript. Now let me change the directory to front end path. Let me install the dependencies with npm install. To manage the routing in this React project, let me install React Router DOM. React Router DOM, which is useful for managing routing. Let me clear this. Now let me run the server with npm run. Now the server is running on port 5173. Let me change that port to 3000. I insert the beat.config.js. Let me write server and the port 3000. Let me save this. And now let me replace with 3000. Now it's running on port 3000. Now let me create component inside your search directory. Components. And now let me create login and home page. Now let me define environment variable, the variable that is used into this React project. So in the root directory, let me create .env. So these are the environment variable that will be used in this project. So currently I am developing this project with the help of Build. It is compulsory. The prefix of environment variable should be start with bit underscore. Now let me manage the routing for login and home page. Insert app.jsx, this one. So here I define the routing for login and home page. So let me visit login and home page. So in the home page, you can see the home, and in login/login, you can see the login. Now let me uh, now let me create the login button inside the login page. So inside the login.jsx. So here I'm creating a login button, and when the user click on this login button, that user is redirect to the Google link, which will prompt the Google login page. Now let me refresh login. So you can see sign in with Google is shown here. Let me click on it show the Google login, or from where you can choose the account that you want to register into the system. Let me refresh this, and now let me add the Google icon here. So actually Google icon is already here. For that I have to write this. I have to provide this one awesome CDN. Now let me define that CDN into index.html. CDN for fun awesome icon and Django plus React. Let me save this. Now you can see the Google icon. Now let me provide the padding for this icon. Um, Inside index.css, this icon is inside the button. So button I and padding right. Let me give 1 em. Now it's look nice. So now let me click on this, and let me choose account and continue. As you can see, it redirect to localhost 3000 and with the access token. So in this page, we're gonna take this access token and send this access token into Google login endpoint. Now inside the home.jsx. So this one. Now let me make you understandable how it works. So what happened here is that once someone when this home page is when someone visit the home page, it take the access token from the query parameter. If the access token is present, then it pass the access token as parameter to handle Google login function. Now let's move to that function, and this function call the backend endpoint Google login with the post request, and it check the whether it check the response contain the refresh token or not. If the refresh token is present, then it set the response into the local storage, and it replace the history with a slash. Another one is it fetch the user profile after setting local storage. And let me move to that fetch user profile function, in which take the token um, as a parameter, and which send, which call the user me endpoint, and now it's set into the user. So we are defining the user state, and the value of user will be the user details. And if the user detail isn't present, then it's loading. And in the case of user, then it show the username, email, and user profile. In the case of the access token, this will happen, and this token is the token from local storage. And if the token is present, if the token is present in local storage, then it will fetch the user profile. When the user click on sign out, then it remove the local storage and navigate to login page. Now let me test it out. Refresh this. Now you can sign in with Google and click on account, continue. Now the user isn't updated, and now it's redirect to the login. So maybe there is some problem. So the one problem that happening currently is that I'm not running the backend server. Now let me run the backend server. If I again sign in with the Google, then it will not work because we haven't set up course header. Now let me set up the course header. Now let me install the course header with pip install Django course header. So it's already installed into my version environment. Now let me include the course header inside install app. Inside the setting.py file. And now let me add a course header. And now let me add middleware. This middleware, this course middleware should be added in front of common middleware. Now let me add the course middleware. Let me save this. And so to allow a region, we have to define the front end endpoint inside this list. So save this. Now let me run the server. Now let me test again. Refresh and sign in with Google and continue. Now you can see the user details, name, um, email, and that profile of that user. Now let me forward some styling. So now inside the index.css, let me add this styling. This one, I define the styling for profile image, profile detail, and username. Let me save this. As you can see, I define the profile class and profile image. Now let me see on browser. Now you can see it looks pretty good as compared to previous. So now there is one problem that when we sign out from this site, the refresh token that is used is able to produce the access token. When users sign out from this website, we want to backlist the refresh token that is used into this system. So for that, now let me create the blacklist endpoint. So before implementing that feature, let me show you how it works. Let me sign out, and inside the home.jsx, let me console token. Now let me test again. Now let me refresh this page. Console. Now when I click on sign in with Google, select account and continue. Now you can see the access token and the refresh token. Now let me call the token refresh endpoint. token refresh. Now let me copy this refresh token and paste here. Now, when I sign out from this system, the refresh token that is used into this system is able to produce access token even though we sign out from this system. So let me show you how. So this is the refresh token. When I click on post, so it is able to generate the access token even though we sign out from that system. So I want to blacklist that refresh token when users sign out. Now let me implement that feature. So to blacklist the refresh token, we need to add this inside lab. Now let me copy this, and inside the setting.py file, let me add that blacklist application. And after adding this application, you have to run migrate command. Now let me run migrate command, python manage.py, migrate, and yeah, it will migrate this application. So I already performed the migrate before creating this video. So that's the reason there is nothing to migrate. So now let me clear this. And now let me run the server again. Now this is a endpoint that allows us to blacklist refresh token. Now let me copy this, and inside the URL.py file of social auth, let me create the blacklist endpoint. Now let me replace this. Now let me import token blacklist view. So token blacklist view. Let me save this, and now let me test it out. Mhm. The blacklist token is token blacklist. Yeah. Now let me test that this refresh token. Let me copy this refresh token, and when I click on post, it is able to generate the access token. Now inside the blacklist, let me mm, paste the refresh token and click on post. Now let the refresh token become blacklist. Now when I again call this endpoint, now you can see the token is blacklist and the token not valid. So what we are gonna do now, let me implement this feature in this sign out. When the user sign out, I'm getting the token from local storage, and this one to remove the auth token from local storage. And another one is I'm calling blacklist token function. Now let me create this function. So the purpose of this function is to accept the token as a parameter, which contain a refresh and access token, and it called the blacklist API. Let me define this API. Again, let me test it out. Click on sign in and click on this account, continue, and we get the access and refresh token. Let me copy this refresh token, and let me click on sign out. So now let me uh, call the refresh token endpoint by passing the refresh token that we used into the site. Click on post. Now you can see the token is blacklist. Now last feature that I want to implement into the system is to generate access token in the interval of 5 minutes. So actually our access token is expire after 5 minutes and the refresh token expire after 1 day. So to maintain this user authenticate into this system, I have to generate access token in the interval of 4 or 5 minutes. So now let's implement that feature. So here I define a function. The main purpose of this is that to here I here I define a interval of with interval of 4 minutes. So you can see in the interval of 4 minutes, it call the object token endpoint of the token function. Now let's create the main purpose of this function is to update the access token, which is stored in local storage. Now let's implement that feature. Now here is the function, the update token, which take the token as a parameter. Now let me pass the token, um, the token, and which call the refresh token endpoint, and which pass the refresh token, and it generate the access token and update the access token, which is stored inside local storage. Only it have status code 200. If the response is equal to 200, then it log out from the system, and in the case of any error, then it log out. Sign in with Google, and it selects Google account and click continue. Now I want to refresh this. I will refresh this page after 5 minutes to see whether it's the access token is updated or not. Let me wait for 5 minutes. Now I waited for 5 minutes. Now let me refresh this page to make sure it will work or not. Now it's working. So currently there is one, I have done one update into the code is that please include this one insert set interval function. Previously, this token, I am getting this token from this, I've defined this token here, but at the time of this page reload, this is null. So in the case of null, this isn't called this update token. So that's the reason I'm defining this here to get the token. So in this way, you can create Google authentication system using Django and React JS.